Hi, welcome to Dr. D TV. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Paul Greenberg. Dr. Greenberg holds a BA in psychology with a minor in biology and also a PhD in psychology with a minor in neuroscience. And Dr. Paul Greenberg is a university professor with over 12 years of experience as well as an entrepreneur. So, Dr. Greenberg, will you tell us a little bit today about, we know that you're a college instructor, but also a little bit about your entrepreneurship and your consulting company and what you do?
They're combined. Obviously, I got started first in neuroscience and psychology research. And what I realized after that is there's quite a few neuroscience principles that you can use on a daily basis in daily life. And so I designed my consulting company to provide services to show people how to set up visual information mapping software as an extension of your brain, as an extension of your mind.
And this is excellent. I've had a chance to work with Dr. Greenberg and try out what you call mind mapping. Is that correct?
I call it information mapping now. Mind mapping is something that was developed in the 70s and is mostly paper-based.
Okay.
But it's not nearly as extensive and fast enough as we need in today's world. So with information mapping, what you're able to do is lay out ideas, images, and any other information that's on your mind, lay it out in a rapid, flexible, and unlimited electronic format.
Okay, and that's I'm glad that you differentiated between the two because we hear a lot about mind mapping on the internet and from other people, so it's good to see the difference between the two of those. So why don't we start with, as you've moved from, you're a college professor, but you also have your own consulting company. One of the things we like to focus on is as an entrepreneur, or some of the things that you did that maybe these tips can help future people who are looking to go into different areas of consulting. So what are some of the biggest successes maybe you've had as you've built out your consulting business?
My biggest successes, my favorite successes are client usages, like what the clients actually use the ideas for, what they use the training for. And also the surprise was really just how quickly people can achieve certain insights using the ideas, using the software, and using the software in conjunction with discussions with others. It really helps to have other people to elicit your ideas. It's sometimes very hard to come up with all of the ideas, all on your own. So using the software to capture ideas, to support creativity sessions has really led to some surprising discoveries, surprising individual discoveries and individual applications. And also, when I run the seminars, I now expect to have one or more people during the sessions to actually make a sort of a mental breakthrough for them, where they generate that aha moment, where they combine the right ideas that they've had, one set of ideas in their mind and another set of ideas in their mind that have never really been properly put together, but they get put together and people make a realization in the class. So these insights that you get to see right away, and then to hear the actual stories of what people have gone ahead and done with the ideas that they generate through this process. So that's been fun. It's always fun. It's always interesting, and you can't predict what it's going to be because everybody has a different life. So that's the most fun. And then also seeing that they take their ideas and that the ideas translate directly into more leads, more sales, a better business plan that they then enact and that they actually turn into increased revenue and increased profits that month or within that quarter. So to see the quick turnaround of ideas is great, and then to also know that they're going to have lifetime utility from it is very fun.
That's exceptional, and I agree with you. Whenever I work with clients and we see them have that success, that's what really feels so great as an entrepreneur, because when they succeed, we succeed. And so and seeing them do that, I think, is fantastic. What would you say some of maybe your biggest challenges might have been as you were building out this business?
Probably the biggest internal challenge is to do something completely new. Is to be out on your own, and then to create successful habits, successful sales habits. When you teach in a class, you have a captive audience, and whatever you decide to do is what the class does, and you get paid the same either way. Whereas if you if you need to provide services to clients, you're not teaching a class. Teaching the class would be, running a training would be the end goal, but that's something you now have to convince people that there's value. You have to present the value of it. So learning the value propositions, learning how to approach, and then just getting used to doing something completely different, making the sales approaches, networking, and making all of the connections. So it's that sort of habit change, to develop a new skill set, and then to actually, just keep persisting with it until you find the right the right people to connect with.
I find that's really true. And networking, you mentioned, is just so huge within this industry. And I also find, do you find in this area of expertise that you're teaching, is there much competition with what the style that you're using?
No, I don't have much competition at all. It seems it's a fairly unique niche that I have. To try to combine neuroscience, you need to know a fair amount about the brain. The more you know about the brain, the better, but you can't communicate all of that, so you have to pick and choose. So this is, I have typically little competition. Very few people are doing anything like this. At the same time, people don't really know what that is. Right. So you have to do perhaps a little bit more work. The visual demonstrations are necessary. People actually need to see what it looks like before they can understand. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that, then you need to, then it's important to generate that sort of raw interest. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's interested in ideas, then I can go set up a short demonstrations in like 20 minutes, half an hour. And then at that point, people are, they actually get to see what it is that I'm talking about.
Yeah, our last entrepreneur, Catherine, mentioned something similar. She, as well as in an industry that is new and emerging, and education. And she has to do a lot of educational seminars to really educate people on what it is she is doing. And then in turn, once they hear that, then they're very much sold on the idea because they see it. And so she mentioned the same thing, that education was just a big factor of her industry. And I'm finding that more and more. There's a lot of companies, a lot of people selling a lot of stuff. And some of it looks really, really great. But I believe a lot of people enter in without being educated in really what they need to know. And oftentimes they don't get that type of quality level of, things that we're doing versus someone who's just slapped together a little webinar and, hey, come watch my webinar. So I agree with you. Well, you already kind of mentioned how you overcame those by, educating people, by doing the visuals. Have you ever been stuck at a point? And if you were stuck, how did you get out of that? Where maybe you were stuck as an entrepreneur or in the process of trying to build something out?
I'm in the process of trying to build things out now. I would say probably sticking points would have to do with leadership change in the different organizations that I work with. So it's fairly, it's not easy to get new clients, but once people believe in the value, and then you deliver upon the value, and they're very happy with what they get, either increased productivity, lower stress, a new way to capture their ideas, a better way to support their working memory in a high-stress environment. Once they start getting those benefits, it's very good. Now, if the leadership changes, because it's usually top leadership that decides, yes, I would like this training for my group, or these select people among the group. Now, once you establish that relationship, it was very easy for me to then go take the individual people in the companies or with the city of Chula Vista to work with those different people and to set a schedule and get the training in a time that actually that fits during their busy day so that they don't have to change their schedule. So with everything in place and set up, then it's easy to go. But if you then have a change in leadership in the group that you're working with, you really start from ground zero. You need to meet with the new leadership, convince them that the project is a good one to continue. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they make the choice to continue the services, and sometimes not. So that's probably been that sort of uncertainty, I think, has been the hardest thing to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that consistently, and so as many of our other colleagues who are trying to break through the barriers at different corporations. And I think corporations are really difficult because we want to get into the big companies because those are people who can afford our services. But at the same time, We're struggling against many different ideas that are being put in front of leadership and what they consider worthwhile and spending their money on. I know as well, a lot of times HR, many entrepreneurs are trying to get into an HR department to, sell their training, and the HR persons are one of the toughest people to get in because they have a million different things that have come in the door. So I agree with you. Those are some definite areas. If you could give any tips to budding entrepreneurs who may just be attempting to get into some type of consulting, it may not be the exact same as yours, but some type of consulting tips, could you give them any?
I consider myself a budding entrepreneur, so these would be the tips that I would give myself. And probably the first tip is just to treat everything as a prototype, to have fun with what you're doing. Once you've seen the value in the services that you have or the products that you have, it's easy to promote that. But you may need to get into, a role of promoter for that. And it's a little bit difficult to maybe know how much you ought to promote, because anytime you spend promoting is time away from doing any of the other activities that you have. So I think just enough of the persistence to stick with that, and also to change and modify what it is that you do based on the feedback that you get. So I had to be very open to critique of the sales process. I worked with a business coach to refine pitches, to talk about sales processes, and these are the things that you don't learn in science. In science, you learn how to do brain surgery, which is amazing, but that doesn't then teach you how to actually sell a service to somebody you've never met before, and perhaps who you don't really know all that much about them. You only have just a few brief seconds to say something that either gets their interest and they're not. So the persistence and making connections, and then just learning different ways to articulate yourself such that other people can actually follow.
Absolutely. Those are some great tips. And I agree with you. A lot of times people think we're college instructors, we have doctorates, we know how to talk to people. And that's completely different, as you laugh, because I laugh too. Because when we're in the classroom, it is a very different, as you mentioned, we have a captive audience, and they're kind of almost required to stay. But when we switch over to consulting and working with people, we are having we have a short amount of time, like you said, when we're networking, or we're going to really sell that pitch. It might be 2 or 3 minutes, and either it's do or die, and either they're interested or they're not.
Seconds.
Yeah, seconds even.
Yeah.
Well, and whenever I've had some places that say, give me 100 words, what it is that you're doing. And that was really hard to get it down to 100 words. I mean, once again, we're college instructors as well as entrepreneurs. And so we want to use our verbose and talk about the subject. And 100 words is like, I don't know how I can do that. So I agree with you that the pitches are very, very important. And that's something that, as an entrepreneur, for those of you who are watching, the more you can practice it, the more you can have that great little elevator speech of, hey, what do you do? And you can get it out there, is really key. Because if you can't tell us in, a short couple minutes, you're going to have a difficult time selling it to anyone else, especially a leader of a corporation who has very limited time, right? I mean, you may get them on the phone for a few minutes and then they've got a meeting. So I would say that that's definitely key.
I've had to learn how to say what it is that I do in just a few words, and so now I just say brain-based learning.
Yeah.
If I only have just a second to say it. So what do you do? And I got that question from a leader during a networking event, and I didn't know what to say at that time. How to describe a business fully, just in a way that could be somewhat comprehensible. So I just said brain-based learning, and got a good response. Eyes lit up, face lit up, and I thought, oh, this is great, because then it gives you an actual chance to explain what it is that you do.
Yeah.
So it was just a process of trial and error to try to figure out what it is that is going to resonate with somebody else. Because once I find a way to connect with somebody, then we all have very similar cognition. We all have similar brains. Everything on our minds is different than what's going through other people's minds. But the principles of learning and the principles of memory, those are going to be largely consistent across people. So once you can make that, once you can have a connection with somebody, then you can have a little bit longer in order to explain some of those ideas, and then say, okay, this is how we're going to use software to support to help you with these parts of the workday that is most stressful, put the most stress on your mind, and also this is how we use the software to support the mind's strengths, which is combining ideas, coming up with new plans, prioritizing, and then actually collecting these ideas in an actionable format for people.
That's excellent. So is there anything that you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
The most fun right now is my book.
Oh, awesome.
Writing is difficult, but to be at the point where I've had hundreds of clients and I realize the need for a book to make, to formalize a lot of the things that we don't have time to speak about during the trainings. During the trainings, I want people up and using the software right away so they can get the benefits right away. Once they get a few of the benefits, maybe they have time for more, maybe they don't. That's up to them to decide if they would like additional training beyond the initial utility. This doesn't give you as much time to give the full glory of the brain. So I'd like to, I'm using the book also as neuroscience education. Neuroscience is for aficionados, people who've studied the brain, who have some of the vocabulary. They don't have time for that in a busy workday. And while it might be interesting, they don't want to hear too much about it, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So the book gets to expand.
Okay,
So
great.
that's fun.
Well, and we'll definitely have to put that on our website as soon as it comes out. So if you could pick anyone who was an influence on you or a mentor or someone who helped guide you along the way, any books, people?
Well, I have a very dear friend who's made a big impact on my life. And it's really fun because she's here with me. I look to you for motivation in terms of hustle. I tell my friends, I tell my colleagues, I'm like, Julie, I don't know how she does what she does. So quick, so on top of things, so many different successful projects running that when I think about how I want my procedures, my operations to go, I look to you as an example of how to do that. So that's been really fun because we get to work together. That's why I enjoy working together. It's like I've been around the right people in orchestras when I was a child. I've been around the right people in science when I was doing MRI imaging at UCSD, and when I was doing electrophysiology at the University of Arizona. You're around people who are very good at what they do, and so you get to be good at those as well. And then also I like being around people with that positive interest. You're really interested in what we're doing, and you wanting to start Synergy Learning Institute. This has been this is a lot of fun. So I have you, I have other friends. So it's a small group of people who are doing what we're doing. That's very inspiring. And I also have some friends, some other lab mates from UCSD who have gone on to start some, I think, relatively large biotech companies on their own for physiological monitoring, methods to communicate information about a pill. So you take a pill, and it can communicate with an iPhone.
Wow.
So to get basically the idea is how do you get medicine to places in the world where there's no doctors, but there is a cell phone infrastructure. So if you can get individual personal medical data in real time to a cell phone, that can be beamed to a doctor in the States or anywhere else in the world. So those sorts of from technology industry startups to service industry providers. These are the people I know who've done this. Those are my inspiration.
Well, that's awesome, and thank you. And you're an inspiration as well, because I've watched you grow over the last, 5-6 years that we've known each other. Yeah. So it's been awesome, and that's why I love interviewing entrepreneurs like yourself, because all of us have to work our way into the industry, and there's a million things out there that we could read, but it's really being immersed in it and having to deal with the situations on a day-to-day. I mean, we can all know the theory of it, but really the experience of it is what does it. And there are times when you're working in your industry or you're doing your entrepreneur stuff and you're just hitting wall. So having that core group of people, I think, is really key to support you. So that's awesome. Is there, as we talked about, some influencers, is there anyone you know personally? And you mentioned a few friends right now doing work that you're excited about, some of your friends in the industry, and anything else you want to expand on that? Any other, technologies or businesses or things that you see really exciting out there that might be a benefit to our entrepreneurs or you or?
There's so many technologies. I like to just focus on a few. For entrepreneurs, I think the main advice that I would give to myself and others at their early stages is just the persistence, just to try to find the right sort of services, to connect properly with the client in such a way that it gives them those immediate benefits. So I don't have any particulars. For me, getting started was the transition from what I was doing to becoming an entrepreneur was something I'd always wanted to do, because I wanted to take laboratory science and make it something accessible for people of all ages. So that was a big internal shift in my conception of what my role was, and then the habits and the actions to go along with that. So I have all the technology that I need currently. Got plenty of technology from the laboratory, and then, but to be able to take some of that and show other people how to apply it to themselves, that was probably my main, I think that was the main work that I had to do. And I didn't need technology nearly as much as I needed people and mentorship. So, to have people just say, no, that was terrible. The way you just said that, nobody would listen to that. Try it again. So we just have groups of people, and I watched some of the other people in our coaching groups go through years of transition, and they would help each other out. One person would maybe make the sales call for them, and one person would promote the other. So maybe it would be your job to promote me. Maybe it would be my job to promote you. And so that was just a way that they got going over the years. So we didn't really need any technology for that. What we needed was that sort of persistence and accountability, and then just the practice of it. And then with enough practice, all of the operations got more smooth. And so that was really fun. Once you start to get things, the right message, the right people, just with that practice. So mostly needed that.
Great. So as we finish up, and we have lots of different viewers, we have businesses, we have regular people, we have all sorts of viewers. Is the type of consulting you do, we know that you consult businesses, is it also something that maybe the average person who doesn't have a business would be interested in learning from you?
Absolutely. I train clients as well as their children, because if you have a mind, and everybody does, and if you have a brain, and everybody does, there's simple steps that you can take to extend capacities that are typically challenged. One of the main capacities that's challenged is the limits of working memory. So you can really only hold ideas in your mind for, in the order of seconds or minutes. I constantly talk to people and I ask them, do you write down your ideas? And the minority do, but of the people who do write down their ideas regularly, they know the value in that. So what they're doing when they write down their ideas regularly, ideas that they generate throughout the day towards a goal that they want, or a question that they have, something they're really interested in, once they write those down, excuse me, once they're writing down and collecting that information, it's not going to be gone. So many people I talk to talk about the ideas, the good ideas that they have that just evaporate. And it is such a waste. This is the creative outflow of your mind, and it deserves to be captured. But the human brain doesn't actually capture that in a way that you easily can using software, writing down. Also the habit of making sure that you write down your important ideas, your good ideas, to collect these, to process them regularly. Your working memory is not sufficient for that. Your working memory is to handle all of the day's activities. So it's not just going to handle your creative ideas, your business ideas. That sort of working memory and that sort of creativity engages at different times during the day. So I tell clients that they have to be, prepared, basically at all times to capture this important output of their mind. So we work on the habits. People realize that they're thinking about this. So that's probably, that's one of the big ones that everybody can do, because everybody has these ideas. It's going to be really hard to act on something that you're not clear on. It's going to be really annoying to think about, I just had that. I just came up with a great way to say a sales pitch. I just came up with a great way to explain this. I just came up with, and it's gone. That's natural human memory. It's like you work on something, you think about it, you come up with it, and you're distracted. So with the computer-assisted thinking, which is what I'm interested in and what I teach, with the computer-assisted thinking, you extend those short-term parts of your memory, and with that, you have a whole new world of information that you can go back to with 100% accuracy. So if you're generating your ideas for anything that you want, and I really encourage people to always write it down. That's just basic laboratory practice for science. Write it down or it didn't happen. But you can't just have pages scattered all over the house. So you have to have a way to combine this information in front of your face when you need it next. So yes, everybody can do this, and I like providing it to business clients because they're already motivated. They want certain things. So it makes sense to capture their mind's content based on those things that they want. So they're highly motivated, and I enjoy working with highly motivated people.
I think that's fantastic. I always make the joke, if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen. And so I have a very elaborate calendar. And I even on my phone, I might be driving somewhere and I'll hit the audio button and I'll think of something and I'll say it on my phone so it goes into my notes, so I can email it to me later. Because I find that actually very true, where you get these ideas and then the distraction of the day comes. And at the end of the day, you're going, oh, I had this great idea, and you're trying to piece it back together. And so I find that very, very true, what you're saying about remembering, writing it down. And I had a chance to sit in on some of your seminars, which are fantastic. So I was able to take the things that I learned from your seminars and apply them as I go. As you mentioned, I'm busy and I have a lot of stuff to do. So organization is really key for me, and having it written down in an organized manner to help me move along through the day is key, or my day would be chaos.
You do so much better than that than I do. Period. I look to you as like, how do you manage? Like, how do you juggle so many things?
It's extreme time management with good people to delegate. I'm not a good delegator, but I've become good at delegating because that was a weakness of mine. So I had to learn to delegate, and lots of good support. So, well, this has been fantastic. Could you tell our viewers what your consulting business name is and your website so that they could visit that if they'd like to?
Certainly. My business name is Greenberg Educational Consulting Organization. My website is www.gogeco.org.
And we'll also put that on the screen so all of you will be able to get the information. So definitely keep your eyes on that as well. We'll update you when Dr. Greenberg's books comes out. And of course, if you have any free tips or anything else that comes, we'll definitely forward that out for you. And thank you once again for watching another episode of Dr. D TV.